as we were prepping the show, we remarked about the change in posture, shall we say, about the current administration with respect to the Epstein scandal. I think is becoming more of a scandal. Not because Epstein is committing more crimes, the man is dead. And he committed far too many and far too horrible a set of crimes. But because now, the reason it's getting worse is because the Trump administration is trying very, very hard to make it go away. And the question is why? New York Times had theirs, and they gave a apt analysis, and I think it was importantly incomplete. Like it was incomplete in a really important way. They said, essentially their case was, well, it's harder once you're governing. It's easy to throw rocks at institutions and put as the leads of the FBI, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, whatever his name is, who's like, I think qualifications are having pretty good biceps and having been in the been in the Secret Service and being a right-wing podcaster. I think these are what makes him qualified. And what made him really qualified is that he was willing to go over and over it again, say like, oh, we need to get to the bottom of this Epstein stuff. Bill Clinton and Bill Gates and don't say Trump and don't say Steve Bannon. By the way, Elon Musk just tweeted, was that just? It was just sent to me. I don't know if he just did it. That Steve Bannon is in the Epstein files. It was an interesting tweet by Elon Musk. By the way, if he's wrong, he could be sued for slander or libel, depending on the method by which it's communicated. I suspect both, because he's probably both said it out loud and written it down. And the qualifications of Kash Patel, I think, went no further than just being a Trump loyalist, and he didn't want somebody in charge of the FBI who was not a Trump loyalist. And Kash Patel also just beating up, we're going to get to the bottom of the Epstein stuff. We're going to get to the bottom of it, find out who murdered him. We're going to look at that client list. We're going to share with everybody that client list so they know what's really going on. Because then we'll figure out, by looking at that client list, who done it. And they get asked, Pam Bondi, Attorney General, gets asked. Remember, it was supposed to be Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz is supposed to be Attorney General. One of these other people that beg description. That doesn't work, so they put in Pam Bondi, and she says, yeah, I got the client list on my desk. Didn't review it. And after she said, I'm going to review it, she said, nothing to see here. They pass out the report. Everybody looks. What's the juicy stuff? Where's the juicy stuff? I got to the bottom of the back of the report and no juicy stuff. No names, no client list. And New York Times, best news organization in the world, well, at least this country, I don't know everything in the world, says, aha, it's different. It's easier to throw rocks when you're outside the building. When you're inside the building, then you actually have to deal with that. And so then Kash Patel and Dan Bongino come out and say, well, it turns out, I just committed suicide. And the New York Times thing is, at some point you have to confront the truth. Yes. And that's an interesting, possible conclusion. But there are two other things the New York Times didn't get into that made me really glad this show exists. One, and at least one of those two things are true. One, that they were pushing a falsehood. They're pushing a false conspiracy for the purpose of building power. They were taking something that had a lot of social magnetism and tried to use it to paint bad pictures of their enemies with limited evidence. And they used untruth, mistruth, misinformation, fake news as a path to build power. That is one possibility. And if that's the case, they should be held to account. The New York Times shouldn't just say it's harder now, but they should be pressed on that they lied and engaged in misleading and harmful speculation for a long time. That's one possibility. The other possibility was not touched on at all. And that is maybe the reason they're not sharing the client list is there's people on the client list they want to protect. And that doesn't seem all that surprising. Now that Elon Musk is saying Steve Bannon was in it, we've seen partying pictures with women in the pictures of Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. They were buddies. It is just an object lesson in the state of the right-wing media, the wrong wing, the bad wing media, that they are able to generate. It's not a compliment, but it does demonstrate their power. They're able to generate this false conspiracy, falsehoods around a possible conspiracy, build power around it, and somehow exclude their guy, when their guy is the guy that we got most receipts on. And then they say, nothing to see here, and Trump says, nothing to see here. Move on. When it was like the most important thing they were talking about, we're going to get to the bottom of it. The other possibility is that, in fact, they said, we're reviewing it right now. And then they came back and said, oops, Mr. President, if we divulge the following information, the following people would be included in that information, and it's not really that easy to excise them and just redact them, because the redactions themselves would be very obvious. And that might include somebody in this room or somebody in this room knows and cares about. I'm not saying that happened. I'm just saying it seems to me at least one of the following two things is true. Either they promoted a false conspiracy for building power, and therefore there was nothing to see there, and they need to apologize for that, or they're not divulging it now because there's something to divulge they don't want to. Either way, they're on the wrong side. Nate made us something. I think he's ready to play it. Let's play it.
If you were president, would you declassify, you can answer yes or no to these, would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah. I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
This week that a source told me, New York, SDNY, they're sitting on thousands of pages of documents regarding Epstein. Thousands.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing.
This systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network on Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But
Prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what?
Well, the Epstein Black Book, like on day one.
On day one, roll out the black book.
Day one.
Where is it?
So will you work
Patel.
with me on this issue so we know who worked with Jeffrey Epstein in building these sex trafficking rings?
Hang himself, or did somebody kill him?
Senator, I believe he hung himself in a cell in the Metropolitan Detention Center.
Really?
Screech.
Are you going to release all the information about that?
Senator, we are working through that right now with the Department of Justice.
When do you think you'll have it done, Cash?
I think in the near future, sir.
Sometime,
Near future.
maybe.
What a
Like
vague.
before I die?
Senator, we've been working on that, and we're doing it in a way that protects victims and also doesn't put out into the ether information that is irrelevant.
Still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're...
Who would ever care about the
If you
Epstein
were president,
thing?
would you?
Who would possibly think this was worth a lot of time and attention? I can't believe you're asking questions about Epstein. Ridiculous. Well, One who smelt it dealt it. It's poor reporter. It's like, I was just listening to you for the last several years. It was the most important thing we had to figure out. Either that was a lie or you're all in a cover-up. It is worth knowing which one. And to my conservative listeners out there, I know you're still curious. Hold your party to account. If it ever mattered, it still matters.